What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast, episode 25 of Season 2. I'm JT, joined by the usual crew of Frank, Jake, Lounis, and some big news dropped right before. Sean Payton saw the Saints team. He saw the salary cap. He saw how much they're paying Taysom Hill on that Fugazi contract, as Frank would like to say. And he said, see ya, I'm out. And Sean Payton is stepping away from being the Saints head coach. To me, I think that means sell all Saints to steal a page from Jake and Frank's book. Like, I don't want any Saints. I don't trust the Saints organization without Sean Payton. Alvin Kamara's fine, but he's old, and, who knows what this offensive coordinator is going to be able to do with him with this new team and everything. Michael Thomas, already so many question marks. We're already saying he's a sell. Sell all Saints. Does anyone disagree with me?
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it to sell Alvin Kamara right now. I actually think he's more underpriced than he is overpriced. You look at his value on keep trade cut. I'm pretty sure it's right in line with Dalvin Cook, which I just don't agree with. I think that Alvin Kamara is a little bit more dynamic, and I just trust him a little bit more. Alvin Kamara is one of those dudes that when he plays, as long as he's literally on the field, he's averaging 20 points per game, somewhere around there in half PPR. It's ridiculous. I really don't think that he's a scheme-dependent back. Like, if you have him on your offense, dude, you know who to give the ball to. Just watch some of this dude's highlights. He's making guys miss left, right, and center. So I don't necessarily agree with selling Alvin Kamara, especially at his current price. But I do agree with the rest of the bunch. I don't really trust anyone. Maybe Deontay Harris though is a guy that could increase a little bit, because I liked him heading into this year as like a dart throw kind of a dude. He obviously didn't break out, but he makes a couple of plays whenever he's playing. Maybe he can get a consistent role, but yeah, everyone else, it's kind of looking pretty grim.
So the name that I thought was kind of interesting from the ones you listed, with selling Michael Thomas, I feel like his value is already so low that at this point it dropping even lower. Like, is it worth still selling, or do you just like hold and hope for the best?
The thing is, you could sell Michael Thomas right now, because there's enough people that, at least I've seen on Twitter and in the community and whatever, that are still apologists for Michael Thomas and realize his upside. Whether it's worth it or not is a different question, but you could definitely get a halfway decent price for Michael Thomas.
So I don't think Michael Thomas plays another down with the Saints, to be completely honest with you. So
you could be right.
I mean, is that a good thing or a bad? That could easily be a good thing. I mean, I'm not sure.
No, I think
it depends on the Saints.
I honestly think it's a good thing. Obviously, the Saints don't have a quarterback right now, whether they roll with the likes of Jameis, Simeon, Taysom Hill, or a rookie quarterback. Whatever happens, they don't have a legitimate starter at the moment. And even rolling into week 1, I don't see them having one unless they pull off some miraculous trade for Russell Wilson or Rodgers or one of these other guys. But outside of that, I just don't see Michael Thomas really sticking around. Their cap is absolutely absurd. I think they're like $72 million over the cap, and he's just going to be a guy that's going to be a cap casualty at this point.
All right.
Yeah, I have a feeling they go rookie quarterback with the new head coach, but we'll see.
I don't know if there will be one, but that's a future debate. So we also have some new GM hires. It's looking like, as of right now, and things are moving at the minute currently with GMs, we got Ryan Poles is going from the Chiefs to the Bears. I think that's interesting, because what does that really mean for Justin Fields? Like, this guy isn't tied to Justin Fields. The coaching staff that was there, not Justin Fields' coaching staff. So the Bears do have to make the decision of, is Justin Fields their guy already, which is tough after only like half a season from Justin Fields in a year 1. But at this point, I'm putting my chips in on Justin Fields. I wouldn't be worried. I think you get a guy from the Chiefs to help build him, make him, build a team around him like Patrick Mahomes. I don't see an issue with Justin Fields going forward, but I could see why people are panicking. Are any of you panicking?
No, I would feel fine about Justin Fields. I mean, you got to think, like, he took the job knowing, 1, that they just shafted him last year, and then 2, they don't have their first this year. Like, it's not like they'll be able to have an early pick. The Giants have their first. So I feel like taking on that job, like, you're kind of knowing and rolling with Justin Fields. That'd be my assumption. But I think he's fine.
All right, cool. No panic on Justin Fields.
No.
I agree with that. Hopefully no one out there is, but I'm certain there definitely
I don't
are.
know. I think that's like way too hasty. And it's one of those things like way too straw man for me for you to be panicking at Justin Fields because of the cleaning out of the coaches. To me, if there's anyone on that roster that has a safe spot, it's Justin Fields, right? Like I feel like if you're what the hell's their owner's name? Like McCaskey or something?
Yeah.
The bear, like if you're the owner and you have any say in what the hell is happening with your major player personnel decisions, like you were saying to the last regime, hey, when we trade up for Justin Fields, like, or at least you were thinking this, right? This isn't because, oh, these guys are trying to save their jobs. It's because this is the long-term answer, whether these guys are in place or not. I don't think that you give them the authority and the leeway to trade future draft capital when if you weren't confident in this guy being the franchise quarterback, whether it's them in place or someone else. Like, dude, they're good. They have to build around him. Like, I feel like you take the job realizing that we have a quarterback that we need to build around, not we're going to scrap the thing all up.
Yeah. For me, this is something that I think I'd be more excited about than panicked about. On the flip side, though, and I know he said that, we could still see Daniel Jones as our starter. The Giants hired from Buffalo Schoen or Schoen, not entirely sure how to pronounce it. He came from Buffalo. The Bills said good things about him. There's talks about potentially Dable going to the Giants. I've also seen rumors about Brian Flores going to the Giants. So the Giants are linked to some bigger name coaches. But to me, I think, what he said about Daniel Jones, where he's like, yeah, we're not out on Daniel Jones yet. He could still be our starter. I think that's just GM speak for, don't worry about what we're doing in the draft or the offseason. Like we're going to handle that internally. We're not showing our cards. To me, Daniel Jones is done for. Any of you guys see anything different?
I don't necessarily think this is it for him. Obviously, it's going to depend on what happens, what head coach is brought in for the Giants, what him and Joe Schoen want to do moving forward. If they believe in him, even the slightest, if they think the offensive scheme wasn't right for him, if they think, hey, this quarterback draft class isn't strong enough, we're going to strengthen other parts of our team, and if we're in this situation again next year when the QB class is better, we could then snag one. Because right now, honestly, the Giants have 2 top 10 picks, 2 top 7 picks. I think they should take the 2 of the top 3 offensive linemen and move on. It's not the flashy play, but this offensive line has been so bad for so long. And as a Giants fan, I'm just personally absolutely sick of it. Fix the offensive line in one draft class.
I think the problem, kind of like what Jake was saying, is that it's not necessarily about Daniel Jones. I think we can all agree that Daniel Jones isn't the quarterback that you're yearning for as an organization. But to get a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, you have to put in significant resources. That's trading probably most likely both of those top 10 picks to go and get an Aaron Rodgers or a Deshaun Watson or whoever that guy is that you're gonna come in and he's gonna lead your team, or it's using one of those picks on a quarterback in what is looked at as a subpar draft class. I think the problem is that the guys that you would realistically want, if Matt Corral come during the draft process, is that guy, he's probably going earlier than 5 or wherever they're picking, right? Like, there are other teams that would want to jump up and trade for a guy like that.
The only way, if the draft stays as is, I don't think a team currently ahead of them. Now, if there is a trade, which is very possible when it comes to quarterbacks and in the draft, but if it stays how it is, I don't see Jacksonville's not taking one. I mean, Houston might, but they're at pick 2, right? They're going to take
but to me, Houston's like a prime trade down candidate. Okay, like even Jacksonville to a certain extent, right? Because what? Right now, I think if I had the number one...
Two's actually the Lions, by the way.
Either way,
but these are all teams that need like way more draft picks than just a top draft pick, especially in this class. We're like, okay, Evan Neal, Hutchinson, Thibodeau, they're good players, but fuck, if you can give me the quarterback ransom, I'm taking the freaking quarterback ransom instead of one of these guys. And I mean, that's also a potential option for the Giants too. If there's a guy like a Kenny Pickett on the board at 5, and another team is willing to just give a good price, a Pittsburgh, a
I mean, that's what they did last
whoever.
year, and they got the Bears' first-round pick. That's how they ended up here in the first place with 2 of these picks.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
what
think
if you just say like, okay, we're gonna take another, we'll give Daniel Jones the year. You weren't comfortable in the other options. It's not that you were believing in Daniel Jones. You just would rather take the value or the player at that pick than go and risk it on another quarterback. Daniel Jones ends up having another year. And on top of the fact that when he played last year, he was good. Great. It was like what, 3 or 4 games. We saw Jared Goff and Sam Darnold play good for 3 or 4 games. So I'm not coming out here and saying that Daniel Jones is great. But I don't think this is all GM speak. I think there is a chance, even if it may be low.
On top of that, just one final word on this is if they bring in a guy that's, a quarterback guru, if they bring in a Brian Dable or someone along those lines, and he says, hey, maybe I could fix him, give him a year, see what he can do.
Well, that's no. I'm out on Daniel Jones.
I think the only way he's starting games next year is maybe if they draft a rookie QB first round, and maybe for like the first couple weeks they'll want to throw him in.
Give me
that
Rodgers,
happen-
bro. Give me Rodgers.
I mean, and that's what I think
They're-
I think they're gonna sign or trade for someone. But I'm saying the only chance Daniel Jones is if they do neither and they draft someone.
I mean, I'll give you credit. If
they draft someone, he is so gone. There's no way. He's not a veteran. He's not a guy that's gonna just willingly accept someone behind him. It's just he's done. Every mistake that he has, the fan base as a whole will be at his.
We had the same conversation last year with Sam Darnold, where I was like, Sam Darnold has less touchdowns in his career than Aaron Rodgers did this season. Now this year, it's Daniel Jones has less touchdowns in his career than Tom Brady did this season. And to boot, he has as many touchdowns in his career as Matthew Stafford did this season. And now we got 2 quarterbacks that we're talking about who have more touchdowns than career touchdowns for Daniel Jones. And it wasn't nearly a passing record like Aaron Rodgers last year. I mean, if you're not the guy through your first 3 seasons, like, why am I now expecting you? I don't even think it has to be expected, but why am I even going to waste more time trying to turn you around? Like, to me, it should have been Justin Fields last year. It should be someone new this year. And I don't necessarily think it's through the draft, but you do have the draft capital of whatever their picks are this year to go and turn and make a very attractive offer to the likes of the Packers or the Seahawks or the Texans, where you could get your quarterback. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a team. We've learned that. Somehow the 49ers are trying to prove us wrong. But other than that, we saw all the teams that are in the playoffs this year. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a team.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the GM, Daniel Jones is not my quarterback next year. But we've seen other guys that are worse than Daniel Jones, that have played worse than Daniel Jones, consistently get starting opportunities.
Yeah, but they're not. From a dynasty perspective, sure, Daniel Jones could have some more starting opportunities, maybe. But if I have him, I'm willing to sell to anyone else who does believe and thinks he has a chance.
Oh, in terms of dynasty, yeah, there's no way Daniel Jones.
Well, yeah, what are you selling him for?
That's what I'm currently looking up. Daniel Jones.
You're not getting anything.
A 3rd round pick, late 2nd.
Not even.
Hey guys, keep trade cut. Zach Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson.
Ooh, Russ and Zach are easily the top 2.
All right,
Russ, Zach, Hurts.
Okay, submitted that. So Daniel Jones,
I don't know, that's tough
according to
because
keep
Hurts
trade
is
cut.
nice too.
A mid to late 2nd for Daniel Jones. Smash.
No way. You won't get that.
If you can get any 2nd round pick for Daniel Jones, smash accepted.
There were people. I myself, I mean, it was a dumb trade, but I traded a 2nd for freaking Ryan Fitzpatrick. Before I traded him for a 2nd, but regardless, like you get those teams that are like, oh look, I'm only a quarterback away from being a real competitor this year, and Daniel Jones, he's slotted in to be the starter right now. I could at least get some games from him, so I don't know. To me, if you could get that late 2nd for Daniel Jones, so moving on, let's talk about the other quarterbacks. We'll spend some quick time on it because there's no real news, like technically, but we got Brady potentially retiring. It feels more real than any other year. I don't know if you guys agree. Like, he's got some cryptic Instagram post up about, oh, I'm taking time to be with my family and figure stuff out. People are reading into what his wife Giselle is saying about, needing to be with the kids and everything and them missing their dad and stuff. To me, I think it's over for Brady. I don't know. I think it's a good place to end it. You didn't make it all the way, but you haven't tarnished your legacy. I mean, although like I don't know how much you could really tarnish it if
You
you had a
can't
bad
tarnish.
season, but you're going out on top. Like you're 45 years old. Like you don't have anything else to prove, and you could just walk away feeling good about what you did.
Yeah, he didn't have anything else to prove like coming into this season.
Yeah.
Especially after the last Super Bowl. I know things are seeming that way. I just have a feeling that he's gonna do one more. Even though I know like things today, like based off like his post and all like the quotes, is making it seem like he's actually gonna retire. I don't know, because he played so well this season. I just feel like part of him is gonna be like,
He
I
led the
still got
league in
one more
touchdowns.
run. Yeah.
I
I
don't
just
know
feel
about
like part
yards,
of
he
him
might
is
have-
gonna be, I don't know, one more year, but I may be wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
For Brady, it's never been about him physically being able to do it. Like we saw at the end of Eli's career, at the end of Ben's career this year, they physically could not play the position as well as they wanted to anymore. Brady doesn't have that problem. Brady, it's just whether he mentally wants to, do practice every day, do film study, be there with the team and do all this, or be with his family at this point. Honestly, if he's playing, he has a spot in pretty much everyone's fantasy lineup at this point.
Are we doing like? If anyone's nibbling and thinking, oh, like maybe I could get Brady for cheap, I think I might just trade him.
I would say if
Yeah,
you had,
it's rough because
do you
I
think,
think
go
the
ahead,
time to trade him was at
Yeah,
the
in the
end of the
season.
season or before. So like, just because he got into one of those scenarios, and it was one of the reasons why I wanted to trade a guy like Allen Robinson at the start of the season this year, was because he had reached a point that everyone was saying, oh, because he hasn't retired when he's 42, 43, and 44, like he's not going to retire at 45 and 46. Where to me, it's like, no. I think now he's more likely to retire at 45 and 46. So it just didn't make any sense. And that was the narrative. Kind of like Allen Robinson, where it's like, oh, well, this guy's been quarterback proof 3 times in a row. That means he has to be quarterback proof 4 times in a row. And an organization he clearly didn't want to be in, kind of got screwed by the franchise tag. Like, dude, no. That's not a scenario that I like, oh, it's a lock because he's done it 3 times. It's like there's still a chance that he has a rough year. And especially if you're comparing him to a true guaranteed 1,000-yard season guy like a Mike Evans who happens to be playing with Tom fucking Brady. Like I just felt like it was one of those scenarios. I guess you still have to be looking to sell here, but dude, if you can't get that above like 206 price, I think he's just worth keeping, because if you can get a low end quarterback one, like I'm not selling that for a late second.
That's true. Currently on Keep Trade Cut, he's still valued at mid-second. I'm going to assume that's only going to go down
Davis
until
Mills
an
or
announcement is made.
203. I think I'm taking 203 there.
Well,
give me
wait,
203.
Brady versus 203 or
No,
Davis
Davis
Mills or
Mills.
203. That was what was
Oh.
just commented.
I'll take 203.
203.
203.
So there's nothing. Davis Mills had a fine rookie year, but unlike Fields, where there was first round draft capital tied to Justin Fields, and like he was solid, like there's nothing keeping the Texans with Davis Mills.
Yeah, I just can't
there's-
see him being a long-term starter. So
I could
versus-
see him playing, but I think 203 is a good price even if he is playing. Like I don't know if Davis. The concern I have with Davis Mills is more so, do I trust starting him every week as like a true QB2 on a contender, or
No.
or do I think he can
Yeah.
develop into that or not? I'm gonna bet on the no. So I feel like, okay, like imagine you could sell Andy Dalton after his rookie season for an early second round pick. Maybe, and that's like, I feel like one of the more ceiling cases for Davis Mills is him becoming an Andy Dalton, like a multiple year, pretty decent level starter.
Yeah, I have my doubt. I don't think he ever will be something
Yeah.
like that. I'm taking the 203. All right, moving on. Aaron Rodgers, he's got an interesting situation as well. We don't really know what's going on. He's said either today or a couple days ago that he will have his decision made and shared with the team at least by the franchise tag deadline day, which is beginning of March. So in a little over a month, we should have our answer from Aaron Rodgers of what is happening. Personally, I think he's gone. I don't see any way that he can fix what's going on with Green Bay. They had a very solid team around him this year. I don't think they're going to fix whatever is wrong, and I think he just wants to move on. Yes, Frank?
I think there is a way they can fix it.
Yes.
Like, let's say that Rodgers and now they don't really. I think part of the problem is they don't have like a true ownership. So like, you can't like meet with the owner and be like, okay, let's like hash this shit out. You know, it's not like the other teams. Yeah, like it's the damn fan. So like, I think that if whoever you talk to, maybe it's the GM, I guess.
It's
president.
They have a president. They have a president.
Yeah.
Okay, whoever that motherfucker is, if he's just like, yo, we're gonna sit down here, and whatever you want done is done. Okay, you want us to start trading picks and going all in with the cap and whatnot? Done. We're going all in. All right. You want us to fire this GM? Okay, he's gone. If you do that, and because I think if I'm Aaron Rodgers, and I think this is his qualm, is that he wants to be on like a super team scenario where like, dude, where Stafford's at, Brady's at, right? Some of these other organizations where like they're shelling everything. They don't give a fuck about cap. They don't give a fuck about future draft picks. They don't care. Even their now draft picks is like we're drafting a rookie that can produce now. Like this guy's good now. We're not drafting Jordan Loves hoping 3 years from now we found the franchise quarterback after you. And it's not like that one scenario. It's all those. So you need to completely 180 the ship, and that's how Aaron Rodgers stays.
But what if I told you there is a team that's already basically doing that, and they're already seemingly willing to cave to his needs in the Denver Broncos, where they're having their second meeting with his offensive coordinator right now, or they did today. They have a team with weapons already that they've spent multiple first.
Those meetings with Nathaniel Hackett are just so you're a lock to get Rodgers in, right? You're a lock.
If we sign you, you're getting us Aaron Rodgers, right? Yeah. I mean, look at that team. It's got such a good offense already. The defense is pretty solid. I know they just traded Von Miller, but I mean, the Surtain pick ended up being great for them too. Like they have a good defense. They have a really good offense, or at least they should. They're just missing the quarterback. And
Von Miller just a trade that has a free agent too. So you got picks. Like he probably wasn't going to be there anyway.
Yeah. So now you have if Aaron Rodgers went, maybe. Yeah, maybe
you're right. Maybe you go in, but
regardless, but. You have all of the pieces right here. Like we have you a team. You can win with this team. Peyton Manning did similar stuff right here.
Like it's been exact same thing.
Yeah, it's been a tried and true. Like
literally.
Yeah, the exact same thing.
We are willing to let you come here, and it's not like Peyton Manning either, where Peyton Manning just could not win in the cold, and that was like a whole issue. Like Aaron Rodgers has played his entire career in the cold, so whatever.
I just don't think the Packers are going to do what he wants. I don't think they're going to do the 180.
They're not, but I think they should. Their team is so talented. Right? For the past 2 years, you could have made the case up until the playoff game they lost, and that they were the best team in the NFL. Like
I don't even think they could. Their cap isn't great either. So
but you can always.
I know the cap is fugazi, whatever we want to call it. Like
I like that.
They can get around it, but like I don't even can they re-sign Rodgers?
Dude, you could always get around it as long as you haven't already restructured everyone. You could get around that bitch.
Yeah, you just restructure fucking everyone.
But if Rodgers is gone, that's got to mean Devontae is going to be gone.
I think the landing spot for Devontae is clearly Vegas. He's going to play with.
I think their entire big three on offense could be gone.
The problem is they should have done this 2 or 3 years ago. Like you do it now, it's a little bit late, bro. Like
you're still going to get a good price for Aaron Rodgers. Like you're still going to get a good price.
Oh no, not trading him. Like
no, he's talking about the Packers going all in.
Like
oh yeah. You should have already. If you were going to, you should have, and they didn't. So yeah. All right, let's move on to our next segment: sell or buy agers, or the real agers.
The real agers. Nah.
I don't got the pizzazz like you do.
We should split it up in terms of because I guess I'll just start it off because I kind of said this on the other one of the other episodes is like when we're talking about agers, I'm talking like there's 2 categories. You got the Mike Evanses who are like the 29s, 28s who are like they're agers, but they're not the real agers. Like the real agers are probably more so like Adam Thielen, Gronk, Ertz, Emmanuel Sanders, like the real agers. So I kind of wanted to talk hypothetically at first, just like in general. Are you a guy that goes and targets aging players, or do you generally try and fade the aging players? And to me, I feel like I generally speaking try to fade aging players in the draft, especially now more so than ever. The more you look at it, even with the younger players going earlier and earlier in startups every year, I still think it's the move to take them. You just want the upside in those startup drafts. But then come the regular season, if I can pick up good veteran players for these second round and third round picks and pick swaps, I'll pick them up that way. But I'm not going to be giving out good assets for old players generally.
Yeah, I'm actually the exact same with you, Frank. And like my startup strategy, I'm drafting little to none aging players. I'm pretty much just drafting all young and hoping that like some of them blow up higher than expected, and the rest like continue to reach their potential. But yeah, I think the time where you kind of look at agers is when you're a playoff team in season and you're like, okay, I need one or two more pieces to make this push. Are you trying to get someone on like more of a discount, someone who's aging, whether it be like a D Hop or Zeke, whoever it may be. But usually, yeah, startup drafts, it's usually like 3 or less in my entire roster.
So I honestly think there's a little difference between the two categories here. The actual, like the agers, we're gonna call them, are the Mike Evans, the Keenan Allens, the Tyler Lockett's, the DeAndre Hopkins, the 28, 29-year-olds. Those guys, the problem with them is you have to sell them before you want to. And that's kind of where we get in the contradiction here of like, okay, now they're 26, 27, like you have to trade them because once they turn 28, 29, everyone's going to view them as, oh, they only have a year or two left. I'm not going to give you anything of value. So you have to always sell too early, and sometimes you may not like it and it may come off as a bad trade, but it's going to save you value in the long term. But then on the other hand, you have like, what do we call them? The real agers, the super old players, the Adam Thielens, the Gronks, the Zach Ertz. I think those guys actually hold a lot of value because teams get desperate and they go, I want to get anything I can get for this guy to get him off my team. And you could actually probably get them for a very reasonable price. If you can get Adam Thielen for a late second, early third, why not? He's going to be productive next year. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't care if, Justin Jefferson's the number one target. It doesn't matter. I don't care who's the head coach. I don't care who's the GM. Adam Thielen is going to put up points next year, pending health, and he's really had minimal health problems so far. So he's a guy I would look for. I think Gronk, if Brady plays, is a tight end you can get for pretty much nothing. Third round pick, or late second, third round pick for Gronk. He's a guy that's, as we saw, when healthy and when Brady's playing, is very productive. And he's a guy that's actually better than most tight ends. The wasteland tight ends aren't going to do anything. I'd rather go with Gronk. I don't care how old he is. He's a Hall of Fame tight end. That's who I'm going to go with. So those older players really hold some value, while the ones that are just about getting there, you probably missed your opportunity to sell, honestly.
It would be nice, and keep trade cut is definitely going to be a good tool for this, but not yet because of how young it is. But maybe like 4 or 5 years down the road, it'll be nice to see the player charts because they keep the historical charts of a player's value according to consensus. And that's where I think you're right, Jake, where it's like, I just pulled up Mike Evans' chart, for example, right? And Mike Evans' chart, it's hard to explain in value, but he is essentially ranked around 7,700 in value all time. So as far back as a little under 2 years ago, right? And that puts him in like a top 5 wide receiver. Now he's wide receiver like 22. And he's got 4,551 in value. So he's lost.
Right. He's lost so much value, but the fact is he's still going to put up very similar numbers. So you're not going to. So you've missed. So to my team, it's not worth selling at that discount price at this point. So you've missed your window completely to sell on that guy.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm backing your point there in terms of you could have sold Mike Evans 2 years ago when I'm sure like he was 27 or 26. 2 years ago, and that was a good time to sell. And you could have bought him back now, and you made up that 3,000 something value. Now, where the issue lies, though, is who's filling in that spot on your team? Like, what are you doing on your team with that 3,000 in value? Now, I'd argue, well, you could just go and get the likes of, that Adam Thielen and plug him in there. Like Antonio Brown would have been a good one. Just plug him in there, and you're only giving up a third for, at least for Antonio Brown. He was only like a third instead of all that 3,000 worth of value that you've lost. So yeah, I think that's a very viable strategy of selling, the likes of players that I point to now. It's a weird case with Calvin Ridley, but if Calvin Ridley gets announced coming back or getting traded somewhere, he'd be one. Terry McLaurin would be one, because Terry McLaurin's also sneaky older than people would expect. Who else? There's a bunch of players. Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I disagree, because for a main reason that I don't want to sell a player at his peak production point. So like 26 years old, 25 years old, I'm pretty sure it's 26, is literally the peak production for receivers. I don't want to sell Mike Evans as a Hall of Fame talent at that point, especially if I'm a contender. No shot. And I think it's just more worth it to sell him now if we're taking keep trade cut prices, because I don't think you could actually get a top 5 receiver price for Mike Evans 2 years ago. You could have gotten something close, but I don't think you get top 5.
Jake did.
I did. Yeah, I got.
Oh,
Dak
you said
Prescott.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I got Dak Prescott.
He was definitely close.
Well, no, you gave up a first round pick and Jared Goff and other stuff.
I also got Stephon Diggs in that trade.
Yeah, but that's not a 1-for-1. You got a top 5 receiver. Like, you gave up other stuff. Like, you were the one paying the premium for Dak Prescott. You didn't just trade Mike Evans for Dak Prescott. I just would much rather keep the guy while he's 26, 27, 28, or I guess 26 and 27, and then sell at the slight discount when he's 28. If I can still get a first-round pick, which Mike Evans you can still probably get a first-round pick for. If it's a guy like a Tyler Lockett where he's productive, but he's just worth second-round pick, I'll just keep him. Like, fuck it. I don't give a fuck. I'll just keep his ass. I do generally agree with the whole, like, if we're going back to when they're 25, 26, like, if you can get a top 5 receiver price for a receiver, I'm probably just going to sell more times than not, unless they truly are, I think, a Hall of Fame talent, because it's just easy to replace that production. And, you like the classic argument is like, oh, well, if you trade him for a bunch of picks, it's like, those picks could become anything, even Mike Evans. Well, it's like, yeah, well, you look at all the dynasty players who are good. Most of these motherfuckers are first-round picks. So, yeah, these guys do become good, like, half the time. So, if I could trade for 2 of them, fuck yeah, I'm going to do it, because I basically guaranteed myself another good player.
My thing is, though, like, you can, and I've seen it happen before, like, you could trade the likes of a Stephon Diggs for a Jamar Chase last year. Like during before Jamar Chase played. And to me, you don't think you could have, Jake, during the offseason?
100%. You could have traded.
I pulled up the rankings just to make sure. So I don't know.
In
August
value,
20.
keep trading cut.
Was this
super flex too? You could have traded him for 105 probably.
Also, when you go to the offseason thing, see what he was like heading into the preseason, not during the whole like drop. Fucking
thing. At any point, Stephon Diggs was ahead of Jamar Chase at any point, and by at least a few wide receivers. He was consistently above Jamar Chase, and even by like 1,000+ points on keep trade cut. Like there were Jamar Chase haters and everything, and it doesn't even have to be Jamar Chase, right? It could be like Jalen Waddle. You really like Jalen Waddle. You're still like I think those moves. That's why I'd be looking to do all the time is trade those older wide receivers who are still productive for just younger wide receivers who I feel confident in. They have that first, second round draft capital, even third round. I probably wouldn't trade them for a third round guy, but first, second round draft capital, they're good prospects. They have all the junior year declared, the breakout age young, the production, blah blah blah. It's just like a tried and true formula at this point, and it's just like such an easy way to maintain value. I don't know why more people don't do it.
because there is always that risk. Like, it's not every especially not so much with the one sec. My bad, Jake. It's not so much with the higher end guys, but with the guys that kind of go late first round. Like, you could strike gold like with Jalen Waddle, but then there are also those guys that kind of fizzle out at the end of the first round. Like,
yeah, but my argument is I'm probably not like, if I'm trading these top tier, like Terry McLaurin, for example. Let's just use Terry McLaurin because I think he's a perfect candidate to trade away, right? Terry McLaurin currently is, let me pull him up. Terry McLaurin
wide
is
receiver 20,
wide receiver 18.
Okay.
So I wish I had what the value adjacent pick would be for him this year. I can try and figure it out.
You want to use a better example, probably?
Who?
Half the fucking receivers around there.
Yeah.
Diggs, Deontay Johnson, Devontae Adams.
I think
DJ Moore, all these motherfuckers.
I would assume DJ Moore is the only one I'm like, all right, I'll go to bat for. But I would assume everyone who has, maybe not Deontay Johnson, but I think everyone who has those guys that you just mentioned do realize that, like, hey, maybe I should start looking to trade these guys now. Where Terry McLaurin, I'm not really sure people have that idea yet because this was his third year in the league. Mm-hmm. But right now, Terry McLaurin's valued significantly above pick 106. Pick 105, maybe. Yeah, he's somewhere between 104 and 105.
So if you could turn Terry McLaurin straight up into Drake London, Garrett Wilson, maybe even Treylon Burks, huge. I don't see why you don't.
Easy way to create value. Because say Terry McLaurin goes off and has a top 12 season. Well, Terry McLaurin's back to wide receiver 12. Like, all right, he made up a little bit in value, but like he's now a 27-year-old receiver, and he's just gonna get older and older.
Well, my argument is like, and this is my argument when DJ Moore or whoever reaches top 5 value during the season, because if you look during the season, every single week, whoever basically scored a touchdown and got 100 yards was all of a sudden the next.
There were a ton of young receivers.
Right now it was like the end of the season it was T. Higgins, beginning of the season DJ Moore. There was Waddle. Like 9 of them. If I could ever get at a point in time like a 2 first and even like first plus and like a good first plus valuation for this guy, especially during the year when people aren't associating Drake London to 105 and shit. You could easily pick yourself up a mid-first plus, and it's not going to look like the sexiest trade at the time. We had a couple of those types of trades in the rebuild league where, like, not that I wasn't happy we did them, but it was a little squeamish, right? Trading guys away like Ezekiel Elliott's and Derrick Henry when he's going crazy in the beginning of the season. But then when you look come draft time and you see, oh, I got a mid-first, a 107, because we traded with a team that they thought they were going to win the championship, trying to win the championship in the offseason. Shit happens. He gets knocked out first round of the playoffs. We get a mid-first. It could easily be Drake London plus for a guy like we did that for like D-Hop, right? We basically got that kind of valuation. And dude, you do that and you just create so much value. If you land a mid first, you land a late first, it's kind of unfortunate, but I'm willing to put my chips on the first. Dude, I remember a couple years ago, I traded for Keenan Allen. I traded 111 and some bullshit for Keenan Allen. And I was happy about it. I'm still happy about it today. But that pick turned into DeAndre Swift. And if we're going to do revisionist history, I would much rather have the DeAndre Swift for value. Like, fuck. And this happens all the time. Yeah, you could draft a bust. But at the same time, if you're worried about drafting a bust, you could go turn around that first round pick for a player that was just as good as Keenan Allen when that pick matured at draft time.
Yep. Well said, Frank. I can't really poke any holes in that.
All right, let's go into the real agers though.
Yeah,
because
these are the interesting ones.
I'm more so on the buy at like 28, 29 once their value starts to really drop, unless they're worth that first. If I can get that first, I'm getting the first. Like Mike Evans and Keenan Allen, if I can trade him for a first at the beginning of the season, I'm going to try and trade him for a first. Because.
So I agree with that. But I think now we're talking like real agers, right? And in my opinion, if they're any productive vet, whether it has been, assuming they haven't had a season where they just like completely spiraled and it doesn't look like they're savable, if they've been a productive vet, any vet that I could get with a 3rd round pick, I'm trading for. So whether that be a Julio Jones, an AB, Melvin Gordon, whoever is out there, if I could trade a 3rd round pick for him, I would, because I don't have faith in whoever's in the 3rd round pick ever becoming anything. They're a dart throw that could be your ticket to incredible value, but for the most part, they're just gonna fizzle out and
Yeah, they're just
maybe
gonna
get
die
some
on your
preseason
taxi.
hype. Yeah, they'll get some preseason hype. They might make a good play or two in the regular season, and then they go by the wayside.
I think the move is, and this is what we usually would talk about, and I think the community generally talks about when draft picks gain value come draft time. It's not that an early 1st round pick is all of a sudden worth twice as much. It's that I can take a 2nd round pick, 207, and get a halfway decent vet for trading down to 307. Where during the regular season, that pick swap is viewed wildly differently because you're only going from 2 to 3. All of a sudden, once names are on the board, I mean, you could probably, depending on the league or whatnot, you could trade from 206 to 209 and get a halfway decent vet as the price for doing that. Like a Russell Gage, which isn't the sexiest thing in the world, but dude, you might have just acquired a flex player for trading a 2nd for a 2nd, which come the beginning of the season, people are going to look at you sideways if they offered Russell Gage for a 2nd round and 2nd round pick swap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to, if you don't like where you're at on the board or you're trying to maneuver your pick in a certain way, I love trading for vets, at least the vets that I like, with these draft picks, and especially pick swapping them. I think that it's a really good move, and I've done it plenty of times.
I do think, I will say with these real agers, I think the only times I feel, obviously, I will say more outside of the ones you can just get for like a 3rd round pick that like JT mentioned, where it's like those, if you're even somewhat competitive, those will usually be pretty good for you. But more where like you might have to throw in like a 2nd or something, I kind of only make those moves if I feel like, okay, I could actually go like really far this year. Like if I'm just like trying to make a push to like maybe get in the 1st round, realistically probably get bounced right away, I feel like I'd rather keep that 2nd. Like I have to feel like I'm one of the top 3 or 4 teams in my league before I start like trying to buy some of those like better tier of like the real agers.
Sure. I mean, obviously, if you're a rebuilding team, you're not looking to buy.
Not rebuilding, but I more mean for those teams that are like middle of the pack that like look kind of like first. Like I have to feel like I'm a top 3, maybe 4 team in the league. Making some
Yeah,
of
I mean,
those
when it
moves.
comes to these real agers, I'm like giving up a 2nd isn't a great look, and it's not something I really look to do. But I'm more along the lines of JT, where if I can get him for a 3rd,
yeah,
I think it's a move and it's a good value, and you can plug him into your lineup, whether that's a wide receiver 3, whether that's a flex play, whatever it is, an emergency play at running back. There a lot of shit happens during the season. There's a lot of injuries, and just having this depth on your team for basically a dart throw that 90% of the time, 95% of the time, doesn't turn into anything more than a flex play, to get that guarantee is worth it to me. But obviously, once you start getting in the 2nd, then you have to start thinking about it, just because you can actually find some real talented players in that 2nd round of rookie draft. So a little different, but
Well, see,
overall,
that's why I like more swapping instead of straight up trading out of a pick, because I think that you can kind of get your cake and eat it too in some scenarios where you can get a player that you liked. Say you're trading from 203 to 208. Well, I can still get a player that I really liked at 208 that I valued maybe at 204 or 205 right after that 203 pick. And on top of that, I can pick up, it's not necessarily a guarantee, but a potential flex play. Because it's
Yeah,
definitely fucked me at times where I trade for a guy and he ends up sucking. But at the same time, like I think it's just worth the potential upside, especially if you're a contending team.
Oh, wait, I screwed up the. I was going to throw a scenario at you, Frank, but I screwed up the sides of the trade. Ready?
Well, see, the other thing too, though, is that I think that there are some times where you have aging players that are older than people actually like. People think they're older than they actually are, and then vice versa. There's a couple times where there are players that the community thinks is younger than they actually are, right? Like to me, Travis Kelce is one of those ones where I feel like it's one of those scenarios where people are just eternally optimistic that Kelsey's going to be good for another year. And then if he's good for another, he's going to be good for another year again. And he's valued at a, like, I think he's a good player. And like, okay, maybe if I could give up a 111 or just a 112 to trade for him, maybe I would. But the fact of the matter is, you have to give up more than that. And to me, I'm giving up a ton for a player who's almost a real ager. I mean, he's fucking getting there. Whereas
he's 30. He's going to be 33 next season.
Whereas a guy like D-Hop, he's being treated as a real ager now, and he's had 1 year, one bad year, heavily hampered by injuries in the past 7.
Yeah, I agree. I think D-Hop's my favorite buyout of all of these guys.
So, like, if I can get one of those pseudo real agers for second round draft capital, I understand you can hit the cash in the second, but
Let me throw out a very easy scenario that you can do.
Okay.
You're on the clock. Someone really likes, I don't know, take your pick. Mechie, Jahan Dotson.
yeah, Jahan Dotson. Let's do Dotson.
All right, 203. You're on the clock at 203. Someone really likes Dotson. They're like, hey, I'll give you 208 and Will Fuller for Jahan Dotson. I'm smashing that. Because then I'm getting Justin Ross or Mechie plus Will Fuller at that later stage. And I think you're getting a similar, the whoever is compared to Dotson, the Justin Ross, the John Mechie's or whatever, they're just a similar level prospect at that point. Like either one has a similar chance of hitting, and you just gained a Will Fuller on top of that. And Will Fuller, I like his upside. I think he could be a productive flex play. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I just like doing this stuff because I think it's easy to creatively come up with trade ideas. And while you're not going to hit them all, if you offer them out a ton and enough, you're going to hit. Dude, the beginning of the season, I traded, who was that random Lions versus Tyrell Williams?
Yeah.
Tyrell Williams was getting random hype and people on Twitter were saying to trade for him. I offered like 16 second to third round swaps in exchange, and you get Tyrell Williams, I get the second. I got instantly rejected by 10 people, but then 30 minutes later, I get a trade accepted. Like these little swaps, you can just offer them to fucking everyone. And you just need one to hit, and it'll hit more than you'd think. We just did this recently with someone.
Josh Palmer. We offered a second for a second to everyone.
Yeah, I offered 16 trades in that league, all Josh Palmer for second round picks, and we ended up getting 209.
We also moved Mason Rudolph for a pick, which we didn't think was possible.
Yeah, I hate Mason. I honestly have a personal vendetta against Mason Rudolph. So
that's impressive.
Getting any draft pick from Mason Rudolph.
To be fair, it was like 5'10". It was like one of the last
I'm
picks
still
in the
impressed.
draft.
Dude, he's the video game that the CD's got a scratch on it, and we were GameStop trying to just sell that to anyone in the clearance bin.
All right.
He got the scratch from Myles Garrett going full windmill, dent in his ass.
Oh my God.
Anything else you guys want to touch on before we moved on to the prospects?
It's hilarious that's going to be the most important play of his career, or like the most remembered play of his career.
No, let's get on to these prospects.
All right, we hopefully could get through a decent amount of prospects.
We're doing the running backs regardless.
I saw kind of like I'll let you introduce the first one, but I saw the craziest thread on our Dynasty about him. By craziest, I mean like dumb.
Wait, who?
The first one we're going to talk about. I didn't know if you
just say it. Fucking Breece Hall.
Breece Hall is who we're starting with. I saw a ton of people, and like, listen, I understand it, but I was seeing a lot of Hall versus Spiller debates. And while I feel like I'm kind of higher on Spiller on this podcast, Hall is still my RB1. I saw people arguing for Spiller because Hall doesn't have the same top end speed that Spiller has. And it was like a thread with like 100 comments, and that was like the logic behind it. They're like, there's not the same explosiveness. I was gonna bring that up when we talked about him. I don't care. Not every elite running back has to be like, I don't know, like Chris Johnson speed. His ball carrying skills are just, I don't know. We will go into our deep dive, but I just saw that thread and it like annoyed me reading it. I'll try to find it soon.
I don't think I really had a problem with Breece Hall's long speed. I mean, I'll start this off. I think
it was
Breece
a topic of debate. Yeah.
I pulled up on the screen the force missed tackle tracking that I do for the running backs. I'm only a handful of games in, but I've got some down for the top 3 backs. It goes right now 1 Kenneth Walker, 2 Breece Hall, 3 Isaiah Spiller on the total force missed tackles per touch. This is a little bit tainted. I think Kenneth Walker's forced missed tackle stuff in general is a little bit skewed because they get to play Miami. And against Miami, he literally had half of his broken tackles. He has a total of, or forced missed tackles, excuse me. He has a total of 36. He had 15 in that game, or 19. One of the two. Well, let me check. This is gonna look like a bunch of nonsense on the screen. Hold on a second. 19. He had 19 in one game.
That Miami defense just could not tackle in that game.
Yeah, at what point is it Kenneth Walker's good or the Miami defense? And this happened last year with Javonte and Michael Carter, basically anyone that played Miami. It's like, I don't think these guys can tackle. Like, I think they can't,
suck. Bro. That one Javonte run is always going to be stuck in my mind.
Kenneth Walker had like 3 of those. I mean, it wasn't flashy, but
he had 3 of them in one game.
He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs of more than 2 forced missed tackles, 6 if you include catches. 2 of which had 3. It's like they just suck at tackling, bro. I think Breece Hall is easily the most consistent running back in this class. He's easily the most developed. Like Breece Hall, to me, his vision is really, really good, and he does a really good job of managing his space. He has a good job of attacking leverage. Just a really, really nice runner in between the tackles. I can kind of agree that Breece Hall is not necessarily like the craziest running back of all time. Like I do think that, especially on the second level, he can struggle to make defenders miss. But at the same time, like he executes the run so well. Like I had a similar problem with DeAndre Swift. And I guess I can concede that I kind of missed on that evaluation, especially because DeAndre Swift, he's just clinical. He's just a professional. When plays fuck up, it's usually not because of him. It's the same thing with Breece Hall. Like he just executes these plays so well, such a professional level. Like I think that he's the RB1 just because as a pure runner, he's a guy that you can trust with the football.
To me, I think Breece Hall is like clear cut 101 in this draft, and I think there's a tier break after him. Like as much as I like Treylon Burks, I just you can't beat a top end running back, and I think Breece Hall has that top end running back potential out of him. My question to you guys before we break him down more is, where would you have ranked him in this year's class, the 2021 running back classes, and Javonte, Najee, Etienne?
I don't think I would have had him above Javonte. And then him and Najee are close.
No.
I think I like Javonte more.
I think I would. I think I would probably have him as a top running back, honestly.
Over Javonte?
You know, the one thing that I don't like about Breece Hall is I think his receiving is a little bit bolstered by the fact that they just threw him the ball a little bit more than some of these other. I don't really think as a receiver he's all that great, and I think that's one of the things that might separate him from Najee is that even though I might trust him more as like a guy that just executes runs better, he's a little bit more consistent for where they are in their careers. Najee Harris was just a fantastic receiver, and so is Travis Etienne. I think that Breece Hall is like there's a decent sized gap between the receiving ability of them and like Breece Hall is kind of being treated right now as like a really good receiving back. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's the vibe that I'm getting off of people.
He is. I mean, part of his appeal is everyone saying he's a 3-down back.
Yeah, he's a 3-down back, but like for all these Le'Veon Bell comps he's getting brought, I'm not sure he profiles out to be the receiver that Le'Veon Bell was. I'm not sure it's close without some like significant development.
The comps that I've seen the most for him are Montgomery and Kareem Hunt. Running style I can kind of see with Kareem Hunt.
I like the Kareem Hunt comp, honestly.
I don't know if he's as good a receiver as Kareem Hunt, but their running styles are super similar.
It's because he caught 23 balls, then 36 in all 12 game seasons the past 3 years. So like his receiving output is just more than Kenneth Walker, the other guy that we're going to talk about. But I really don't think he's a better receiver than Kenneth Walker, aside from the fact that like he's actually asked to run some semblance of routes. So maybe he just has a better feel for the general route tree and like running screens and shit. But I think as like a pass catcher, not really.
J.K. Dobbins on Ohio State had 22, 26, 23 receptions. Like, I think that's a good place to live for a college. Is just that mid to high 20 receptions, because I think college football is different, although they're getting closer together as years go by. But college football is different in that sense. I don't know. I used to think you could improve as a receiving back. I've been kind of proven wrong. The only one that seems to hold true still is Josh Jacobs. That man, I don't know. Anyway,
he seems to be getting worse actually. But
anything else you guys want to touch on with Breece Hall?
Yeah. So one of the things that surprised me about Breece Hall was that initially when I watched him, I can kind of say like I guess I thought like that Reddit user where I had some questions about like his overall speed, but then I was watching this Texas game and like, should I just pull it up? Should I just pull it up on the screen?
Yeah.
What do we think?
Yeah, go for it.
We'll try and break it down for podcast viewers.
Yeah.
322. Hold on. Yeah.
I feel that Dynasty post in our doc, by the way. I wanted to see. It was like a huge debate. It was like 50 plus comments.
Yeah. What did he say exactly? Can you pull that up?
I put it in the doc.
Can someone pull up what that guy had to say? I got to resize this window. Hold on.
He was saying like that he thinks Breece Hall can be good, but not one of those top high end level drafts because he doesn't have that great long speed. He thinks that he had good size, but can never get it really into that like top 5. And there's a chance he ends up like a healthy Chris Carson or something.
Yeah, I just looked at
like
that.
A top end back.
So stupid. And do you know why?
I didn't agree with it.
Do you know why it's so stupid? Because I just looked it up. It's very easy to find. Just Google fastest NFL player 2021 miles per hour. We had Jonathan Taylor hit a top speed of 22.1. Marquez Valdes-Scantling 22.09. Jonathan Taylor again 22.05. Surtain 22.07. So looks like people are topping out around like 22 miles per hour. Breece Hall has a game against West Virginia. Breece Hall, you can easily look it up. Breece Hall against West Virginia hits 21.5 miles per hour. That's right up there. That's not far off. Like, I don't know what they're saying about Breece Hall not having top speed. Doesn't make it. That's why I hate these Reddit film watchers. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like Breece Hall can hit that top speed.
Well, yeah, this is a play that like really cemented that this guy has got some really nice vertical speed. Like he just 2 plants, 1 plant there and a second plant there. Like these are D backs that he is making look really. And this is a big dude. Like he is a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big running back.
And you see these vertical cuts that he has plenty of times on tape. On top of the fact that he has really nice patience, he has good power. This guy's always falling forward, right? Like to me, he is a real like total package running back in the running game. You can ask him to run zone schemes very well. He has really, really great vision. He's going to find those holes that open up and read leverage of his blockers very well. And on top of that, he's got the power and speed to run gap and run it consistently. Like he's just a really phenomenal back. He's one of the few players that coming in to watching him on tape, like I was really excited for and thought he was really good. And my opinion didn't really change in either direction a ton. It's like, okay, well, he's still really, really good. Maybe I was a little bit underwhelmed as a pass catcher, but at the same time, very overwhelmed by his vision and it like just how polished he was as a runner. I think the one question mark I have, I think I already touched this, correct me if I'm wrong, but just that breaking tackles on the second level can sometimes be an issue. I know the forced missed tackle rate is going to say like 0.38, so 38% of the time. I feel like for the second level, it was a little bit less consistent than that. Maybe like 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4 chances, which is like a problem that I thought Najee Harris had, was that just on the second level, he struggles to make guys miss, which, I mean, Najee Harris's longest run for most of the season was like under 20 yards. So I guess it's something to watch out for.
Frank, can you appease me for 1 second? And I put in the doc a YouTube link. It's his game against West Virginia. And you just need to go like 10 seconds in that YouTube video.
Okay,
it's at
10 seconds.
Yep.
Well, we got an ad.
Oh, we got an ad. All right. They should be paying us.
Yeah, Lounis has got the beanie going today.
Yeah. All right. So while you're pulling that up, I just think he has that long play potential that I just maybe he struggles to break tackles. I don't think it's as big of an issue as it was with Najee Harris.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he led the NCAA in runs of like over 20 yards.
Yeah, I believe it.
So, like, yeah, I don't think long speed is an issue. On top of the fact that I think long speed is to a certain extent overrated. Like, the difference, but obviously it makes a difference for fantasy. I'm not saying that you don't want this to happen if your guy is playing, but like, to me, the difference between a running back getting a 45-yard run and a 70-yard touchdown does not mean anything. I don't give a fuck. The fact that he got 45 yards in the first place is enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's all the speed that you need. I don't need you to create this is the NFL. The D-backs are going to be faster than you if you weigh 40 pounds more. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think if there's anything else on Breece Hall. I think we've basically covered most of it. To me, he's the easy 101 in this class.
Does anyone disagree with that?
Was him being
No.
101? No.
Yeah.
I mean, he's easily the top back. I'll give him that.
I have a question. If Corral goes like top 3 or top 5 in this draft class, are you considering him?
That's the only way he's not the 101.
That's what I was thinking. That's the only way.
Top 3 to 5. That's it.
Yeah, I also really like Drake London and Garrett Wilson. So, like, if they end up going top 5, that might sway me a little bit, but I'm not sure that'll happen.
To me, I just think it's so much harder in most leagues to trade for a running back than it is anything else. So, well, quarterbacks maybe, but I don't. Corral's got way too many question marks for me to put him up there. It's Breece Hall 101 for me.
Yeah, I think that Breece Hall is like the one running back in this class that I would rank around the level of the other top backs of previous classes. He checks a lot of these boxes. It's just the receiving ability is a concern for me that's not going to be a concern for the consensus, because especially with the data analytics guys, he's probably going to check receiving boxes because they threw him the ball a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that if you replace him and Kenneth Walker, like, they would have a similar receiving production and ability. It's just one team threw the ball to the running back, the other fucking just handed it off more, right? It's just kind of the way the news works.
Where do you guys think he's going? Second round in like the actual NFL draft?
Yeah.
I pulled up a mock where I think I saw him second round.
If he goes early third, are you concerned at all?
No.
Maybe a smidge. Like, I remember J.K. Dobbins
I definitely would
dinged.
want to see him in the second.
J.K. Dobbins got dinged because of his draft capital, but I think that was purely because of teams' issues with him in the receiving game, because he was another guy that he caught a good amount of footballs, but if you watch the Ohio State games back, I mean, there's plenty of drops and just underdevelopment in the receiving game that I think this has been a deciding factor for which back some of these coaches pick. I mean, it's why CEH went as the first running back and then DeAndre Swift is the second. Is because both these guys were good receivers and they were developed. They could run routes. They could do stuff that some of the other guys coming into the league just couldn't, whether it was justified or not. I think that's definitely one of the reasons. All right, well, let's get into Kenneth Walker.
All right.
Kenneth Walker, 5'10", 210 pounds, 20 years old, I believe. Maybe he's 21. Let me check.
He's a junior, so.
He is 21. He is 21. But yeah, he's a junior. Early declare still. Maybe he's just one of those guys that's a little bit overlisted. I feel like he plays a little bit smaller than 5'10", 210 in some of these games. He occasionally will bring out like him hitting the crap out of someone, but I mean, fuck, I saw Jameson Williams crack a couple people. I've seen John Mechie crack some people. Like, to me, I feel like he does not play at the size that he's listed to its fullest extent. That's the first thing. Okay. He's a running back that relies much more on speed than I initially thought, especially with, you know, how many times PFF has tweeted out that this guy breaks tackles left, right, and center. I mean, the other thing, I guess, where I deviate for consensus on Kenneth Walker was that, like I said, in the receiving game, this guy caught like no passes during his time at Michigan State, but I really don't think he's a bad receiver. There was a couple plays where it's like, damn, that was nice. Here, I'll show you 519 in this Michigan game. Where is it? 519. Like, dude, this is a nice catch. Okay, it was the play before. I suck at this. Yeah, look at this. Little one-handed snag on a pass behind him. Like, he has a couple of catches like this in the few that he gets. Like, he doesn't stay up, but like, fuck, he caught the ball. There was another play. Oh, I wasn't showing it. I'm a scrub lord. I'm really fucking this up here.
We're watching on a delay, so we can't even.
Yeah, here. Right? A nice little one-handed catch there. There was another play against Miami, I believe. Miami or Rutgers, or earlier in this game, one of the two. Another catch on the goal line, like difficult catch away from his body, behind him, catches it, runs in for a touchdown. Like, I don't think you should let the low reception totals fool you that he can't be used as a receiver.
Yeah, and I think that theory about him, that myth that he's not a good receiver, will be righted, I'm going to say, at the combine when people see him and see him up close and realize that he actually is a good receiver. He was just not asked to do that. And he did everything that he was asked to do very well at Michigan State. He was obviously, I think he was a Heisman semifinalist, I think, this year.
Yes.
So he really had a fantastic season. And I think the big knock on him is this receiving ability. And if he can be a 3-down back in the NFL, and I think he can be, I think it's going to depend on what the scheme that he gets drafted into. And if it fits really well, I don't see why he wouldn't be worth a very high-end first-round pick, honestly.
What's the earliest you're taking him? Let me ask you that first before I go into my spiel on him.
Mid first.
I was gonna say maybe around
probably
107.
106.
Did I disappear for you guys?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if that's just me.
Oh,
But yeah,
hold on.
somewhere like
I'm gonna have to
107.
leave. There, hold on. I'm gonna leave and come back and give my spiel.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you.
All right. Well, real quick, while we're waiting for JT to come back and give his spiel, he caught 64 passes in high school for over 1,000 yards. I mean, it's high school. I could catch passes in high school, but it's 64. No, so I guess I can't.
You caught some long snaps.
What the other week? So I think that like he's just an underdeveloped runner, Kenneth Walker, and that's one of the things that concerns me.
I think the big thing, I think the reason why is because he transferred from Wake Forest, and I don't really think he got much of an opportunity there. And since going to Michigan State, he really developed nicely and really hit his stride in a team that's much better and better suited to him. So like I said, if he goes to a team that's suited to his strengths in the NFL, I think there's no reason he can't take another step forward.
Yeah, I think that I just have major concerns on whether or not he's going to be one of these true, he gets the ball a shit ton type of running backs. And he may have to settle for more of like an Aaron Jones kind of a role where he's like more of a lightning back. He's a guy that he hits the edges and like, not that he's like a crazy receiver. And Aaron Jones, like another guy, he has great receiving stats, but Aaron Jones isn't the best receiving back in the league. He's good and he's definitely developed since college, but this guy isn't like amazing.
Yeah.
But
he's not like the Kamara and CMCs.
Yeah, he's not at that level.
I mean, we've seen it though. If you're going to say he's not going to be, even if he is Aaron Jones and there is an AJ Dillon in this backfield, we've seen it be very successful in the recent years where you don't have to be the bell cow, get everything, play every snap running back. There's very few of those guys. Christian McCaffrey is one, and
Najee Harris, I guess, is like one of the
Najee Harris is another one, just because that team used the shit out of him this season. So like, there's very few actual bell cow running backs, and most of these are in kind of a split backfield, if we're going to call it, even if it's a 1A, 1B situation where one gets slightly more carries, you could be successful. guys like Javonte Williams, who's something up like, running back 4 or something on keep trade cut right now.
You gotta have
He
carries.
split the carries pretty much down the center with Melvin Gordon this season, and was still productive. Had, I think, not a little over 900 yards, 5 touchdowns, something like that, and is now one of the premier dynasty running backs. I don't think that should be a knock on a guy at this point. In, I guess, the meta that is the NFL, where you use so many running backs at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess there's a couple other ones. I think he struggles to deal with early interior pressure on a lot of these runs. That's definitely one of the. He's the kind of guy, he wants to hit holes really quickly, so he kind of pigeonholes his options at times, where he'll see a little flash and make up his mind instantly. And when he has an unblocked defender or an interior rusher that he not necessarily he doesn't see, he just isn't expecting. Sometimes he kind of fails to change his plan quickly enough, or his feet just won't play as quick as he wants them to be when he's trying to change his plan. I think when he has someone unblocked coming off the edge, though, and they give him a chance to bounce outside, that's fine. Like, he can deal with that. I just think from the interior, that's where he kind of struggles to do. You'll see some of the elite backs. It's almost like they barely move, just that quick sidestep, yet it makes guys miss so easily. I think that he struggles with that a little bit. And then lastly, I just want to show a clip on one of the other issues I have before you go into your spiel, JT, is that I think he just kind of struggles to manage space sometimes as a running back. This is fucked up again. But here's it. And this isn't the best example, but it's an example. I just don't love how he attacks the leverage of this linebacker here, because in the NFL, this is like a huge lane. This is a big play opportunity. And you're going to see that this corner is blocked. All these interior defenders are blocked with leverage. He's being blocked to the outside. These guys being blocked to the inside. And he needs to take this linebacker one-on-one in the alley. Like, this is what a true elite NFL back would do. They would realize this opportunity they have and challenge a guy with poor leverage. He's bombing all the way across the field to tackle him one-on-one in space. And instead, this is what Walker likes to do a lot. He just wants to kind of bounce it outside, which gives this corner, who is initially blocked, good leverage because he's being blocked to the outside, and all of these defenders a chance to pursue. And instead of making, he gets tackled by this corner when he has like this one-on-one opportunity with this backer here to really make a big play, force this guy to miss. This guy's going to have way too bad of leverage, I think, to really make a tackle on him. And like that's the type of run that one of those truly elite running backs would see that opportunity and really take it and challenge the leverage and attack the leverage of the defense. All right, go on your spiel,
and
JT.
that's why. Oh yeah, go ahead, JT.
Okay. Well,
Welcome
so my
back.
issue and why I'm more hesitant than you guys to, put him. I left when you guys were talking about where you take him. I can't really justify taking him any higher than about 107, 108. I don't know if that's where you guys were saying.
Yeah, we have
were
him like
around
107,
106.
106.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we're really not that far off. But where I have my concerns and issue is his college production was he was on Wake Forest for his first 2 years, right? But he did not have a whole lot of production there. He had a decent amount of rushing touchdowns, I think, in his second season. But in terms of like rushing yards and everything and what he was able to do for the team, it just pales in comparison to the likes of Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller. And then you want to go back to the 2021 and 2020 running back class. Like it's just not close. Like even guys that were behind, like Javonte Williams was behind Michael Carter in his second year, and he still managed to have more production. It just gives me pause, and it's like I don't dislike Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be a fine player, but when we start talking about him potentially going over Isaiah Spiller, that's where I start to have caution. I think Isaiah Spiller is definitely the more complete back. I don't know if you guys just lost Frank, but I just lost Frank.
Just it's video, not audio.
Wait,
But
hold on. I'm just trying to change the setting.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I have my concerns and issues with, because Everyone else, I went through all of them. J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor, obviously. The only one that really has a similar profile is CH. And, well, not in terms of like, all right, CH had a lot more like receiving yards and everything, but like CH didn't do really much his freshman and sophomore season, had similar, the 500 roughly yards his sophomore year. And then in his junior year, CH had like 1,500, which is mimicking kind of what Kenneth Walker did.
Rashad Penny probably had a similar like last year, but there have been some running backs the last year breakout. But like, I do agree with you, JT, that I am not as confident in Kenneth Walker as some of the other people in the community. I've seen a handful of people have him as their RB1, and really
Yeah, that to
tout
me is
him.
just crazy.
Whoa.
Well, like not even that, right? Like going and picking him up before a guy like a Drake London. And to me, I'm just not doing that for a running back of this profile. I think that he's a late second round, early third round kind of guy. I probably am going to have a similar grade to someone like Michael Carter. I think he's going to be bumped up a little bit above Michael Carter, who I personally think should have been taken in round 3, and he ended up going the very beginning of round 4. I'm going to treat it as a round 3. Just saying. I just think he's closer to that than a Javante or a Najee or an ETN, and that's kind of the problem. Is I think he's just going to be a little bit overdrafted. But it's going to be interesting to see what if he does go in the mid 30s. Is he going to be kind of like, or early 30s? Is he going to be like a David Montgomery and people just say, don't give a fuck, taking him 103?
I mean, if you get like him to the Bills or the Falcons, like, the Dolphins, like some appealing teams that people want the running back to go to where they think he's going to have a ton of opportunity right off the bat, then yeah, he's going to get bumped up, which I don't think is fair.
It's reality though. Like if he does,
it's going to happen.
Reality is I'm sitting there 104. I'm not forcing a back that I don't want.
No, but people will want him at 104.
Yeah,
if he goes to a good situation.
That's where, if he goes to Buffalo, his entire draft position changes ADP wise. It's gonna skyrocket up.
I don't know. Give me London or Garrett Wilson or Treylon Burks.
Yeah. Agree.
I mean, dude, if David Bell goes at the end of the first, I might take David freaking Bell too. Like, I don't really want to put a high-end pick onto Kenneth Walker right now. I'm just not confident. Okay, if he goes early second round or by some goddamn miracle in the first, yeah, then I'll change my position. But until then, I'm going to have to see it to believe it.
That's fair.
Agree. I'm with you 100% on that, Frank. All right, do we want to move on to Ohio State boys?
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll wrap it up with Ohio State boys.
Should we do just one of them or should we do both?
All right. We could just do one. We could save
doing one.
Who you want to do
next week? Ooh, that's a tough decision.
This could go. I have very different takes on these guys. So.
Yeah, me too. I think we're all going to lean the same way. I'm just going to pose the question out there. Do any of you guys value Olave in the first? Let me put it like that.
First round of rookie drafts?
Yes.
I have him as one of the top second round picks.
He's not.
Listen, if
I kind of have him going similar.
If he goes in the first round of NFL drafts, yes.
That's a fair response. Which some people have him going. I think as of right now, which if that does happen, I'm going to bump him up. I think right now I kind of have him similar to around where Elijah Moore was last year in rookie drafts. Kind of like around 203. 202, maybe 204. That's where I probably have Olave right now in rookie drafts.
If some team invests a first round pick into him, I think
he's gonna get it bumped up then. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also worth taking him in the back end. I'm talking, 110 to 112, probably closer to 112, obviously here. But still, I think he's a guy that coming into last season was one of the top, NFL prospects. Coming into this season, he was still considered a very good NFL prospect, and I don't think he's really done anything to knock himself down besides going back to school and being a year older.
Well,
which obviously does play into effect. But if he was to come out last year, he probably would have gone.
No, that's why he went back to school. Because you have people in your corner that are like, hey, like we've talked to the scouts. This is what we think you are. Like we see you going in the mid second round. We see you going in the early third round. He talked to the scouts. The scouts were like, hey, like, we don't think you're going to go where you want to go. You should go back to school for a year and try and bump your stock up. That's what Devontae Smith did, and that's what Olave is doing. That's what a bunch of receivers have done and are doing. And to me, that just means you're not actually a top prospect because you went back to school. So
I mean, when you're being compared to the likes of Jamar Chase, yeah, he's not in that same caliber. Very
but
few players actually are.
But he was getting compared to the likes of Rashad Bateman and Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore.
Sure, and if he went over any of those guys, I mean, he would have been drafted very similarly, which was probably the back end of the first round.
Someone in his corner was telling him, "Hey, we don't think you're a first round pick," which means, "Hey, you're being rated by the NFL behind all these guys." So that's why he went back to school. And I mean, it's going to work out for him probably in the fact that he will get that first round draft spot, I think. I mean, most mock drafts I see have him going in the first round.
Late first,
but
yeah.
To me, it's just like one of the biggest red flags you can have for someone like Olave.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with JT a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, like, to me, I think he would have been a first round pick last year, and I think he just shot himself in the foot. And I don't think he'll be a first round pick this year, to be completely honest with you, because of two reasons. One, NFL teams do value, at least I know the Steelers have, for their first round picks, whether or not you're an early declare or not. And it's more so, I think it more so has to do with age. I mean, listen, I'm not in the fucking building. I don't know, but you look at all their first round picks, they're all early declares. And you look at the hit rates of early declares versus non-early declares. It matters. The second reason, and kind of to add on, if you're not an early declare, I like to see you have a linear development. I want you from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4 get better. Just easy little graph. That means, to me at least, that shows, hey, you're improving every year. You're not a finished product. You have untapped potential. Well, Olave kind of got worse by a good margin.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a lot of mouths to feed, but we're talking about a guy that was at 104 yards a game going down to 85 yards a game with most of his numbers down on an offense. Like, it was a good offense. So I'm not necessarily fully out on Olave. But in my wide receiver process, I'm starting to rely more and more on analytics that it seems like every coming year. And I just don't buy it a ton.
I have a question to Frank and JT.
His profile.
Not where you think he's gonna go, but where would you feel comfortable taking him in a rookie draft? So for me, I said around like 202, 203.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe like a pick or two back. I'd have to see how the board,
Plays
kind of
out.
lays itself. Yeah, plays out. But I don't. When you're spending that like mid-second on him, if you're doing like a 204, I don't think that, especially if he goes in the first round. I think that's fine.
Well, in the second round, yeah, that's fine, because I think the risk of all these factors that me and JT mentioned, at least that are capping him from us, are priced in at that point. Okay, fine. Yeah, fuck it. Like, if the hit rate goes down 20%, but yet I got him, 7 picks later than I thought he was going to go? Okay, yeah, fine. I'll gladly buy into it at that point.
I was clowning Tony last year, like all of last year. And even I was like, all right, like if you're going to take him at 210, like I don't have an issue
yeah, he fell to the very end of the second.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with you taking Tony at 210 because at that point, like anyone's a dart throw there. So like, who cares?
Matt Hill says Olave came back to try and win a championship with Garrett Wilson. He said, "You will not convince JT. You will not convince JT. No matter what, if you are not,
I would say that
too. It's the NFL told you were bad. He will not hear it."
Is Olave gonna kind of be in like dynasty circles, like the Tony of last year, in terms of like first round receiver? That's
not
going,
as
like,
bad. Not as bad.
No.
I think because he's had the production.
Hold on. Can we focus on that point for 1 second, though? For 1 second, just put yourself. I mean, we're all young. Like, if you're telling me I, at 21 years old, can go to the NFL and make, like, I'm gonna get a signing bonus of like $3 million. And then on top of that, I'm getting a contract. And oh, hey, I'm in the NFL. Like, I don't have to worry about if I get injured. Yeah, it sucks. But if I get injured, I don't lose my career.
You already signed.
Or I could go to college football and try and win a national championship, which I still have to compete against like Alabama. And they didn't even make the national champion. Like, they didn't even make the playoffs. Like, I'm going to the NFL. Like anyone's the only one.
But
Like,
what
maybe-
about your education, lol?
yeah.
And plus, Justin Fields
I
just
could go
left.
back to school if everything doesn't work out. I could still go back to school. Like,
Yeah.
I got
Olave or
3 years.
Davis Mills?
Ooh, that's kind of spicy.
Oh, that's
Oh.
kind of like the 203 question. So yeah, if I answer 203, I'm taking Olave.
I mean, I have other.
Can I
Yeah.
take 203 back? Can I get 203 back? Like-
yeah. If we were to keep trade cut it, I do the keep on the 203.
Well, I say Olave
I think
because
I'd trade
I
Olave
value
and I'd cut Mills.
I'd value Olave around 203, so I'm taking Olave.
yeah, I think I'd still take the thing with Olave, because someone was saying he would be in the Tony crowd. I actually think the Amon-Ra St. Brown crowd is going to like Olave, because to me,
Yeah.
I think
That's
that they
fair, actually.
have a similar problem in that. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown is another guy I had a second round valuation on. I think he just fell too far. And if you were to redo the draft today, he'd be in the day 2.
Oh, yeah,
somewhere,
easily.
right?
Easily. Yeah.
But I think that NFL teams were right, at least in the fact that these guys just have a capped ceiling. I think Amon-Ra, and that's one of the problems I have. Amon-Ra, I could be fucking wrong, but from my eval I got of him is that he's not going to be much better than he is right now. So like, cool, he's good right now, but and like, hey, listen, if you picked him up, he's probably a good fucking player for your fantasy team, especially down the stretch. But like, I don't see him making tons of strides. Where like, dude, I see a guy like Garrett Wilson, and I'm thinking that this guy has the potential to be one of the top receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, I see Amon-Ra kind of like how Jarvis Landry was when he was young. Like it's like they came onto the scene strong, but there's such a limited ceiling. Especially like they can't really be a true number one outside receiver.
And I guess to just piggyback onto that problem of a limited ceiling with Olave, to me, I think what I saw, like, he was very polished early in his career. I think it's one of the reasons why he played over guys like Garrett Wilson and Jameson Williams and whatnot. I was like, dude, early on, he was a great fucking route runner. I mean, he still is. Like, he just had a lot of polish and a lot of work on his craft done. And like, he was good. But that hasn't necessarily kept improving. And that's on tape. Plus the fact that I think there's a lot of analytical factors pointing at the fact that he has a cap ceiling. It's almost like, two sides conjoining into one. Like, at what point do I just say, well, his ceiling's fucking capped?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Anything else you guys wanted to add?
Or is there any non-Olave slander? Can we say anything good about this guy?
I think you touched on it. The fact that he's an absolute polished route runner, and that's nothing that's going to change. That's what he's good at, and that's how he creates separation. That's why he's been so successful.
And he's
even
fucking fast.
Yeah, and he's fast. He's a pretty big wide receiver. He's 6'1", almost 190. He's, he has the build, he has the route running, and he has the speed. So I understand why he's probably going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. And if an NFL team's going to value him that high and put that amount of draft capital in him, I understand there's a lot of red flags waving in your face. And I understand Kadarius Toney was a first-round pick, and he probably shouldn't have been. But everyone knew at the time that was a flat-out reach by the Giants. And I don't think a team is going to say, oh, that's a flat-out reach on Olave. And that's the difference here. So, like, I understand not wanting to take him in the first round because of rookie drafts, I'm saying, because of these red flags, and you want to go with the upside of a Garrett Wilson, the upside of Drake London. And that all makes sense. But at the end of the day, he's a very safe prospect. And I think he's a guy, if you're going at the end of the first round and you just want a guy that you can probably rely on to be that at worst, number 3 receiver for your team, I think that's not a bad pick.
I think
you hit the nail on the head, because that's what, and this is why I think the same people that like Amon-Ra will like Olave, is that you are gambling on a guy being a number 2. You're not looking for him to be the number 1 stud receiver. You're saying, hey, I don't give a fuck about the upside. I just need this guy to be a good ass number 2. That kind of like that beta profile that a lot of people call it. Like, he kind of fits the bill. You're kind of betting on a beta receiver. I hate to use that word because it sounds more derogatory than it actually is, but it's like, he's a number 2. You want him to be a number 2. You just want him to be a really good number 2. Give me that wide receiver 20, wide receiver 18 finishes and be consistent, right?
And if he does that, he's going to be a highly ranked dynasty wide receiver for a while. I mean, we talk about him being older just because he stayed a season. What is he, 22 years old? You're talking about, like, in the long scheme of things.
Yeah, it's my issue is more that he stayed than anything.
Robert Miller.
The thing I would say is interesting, and it was actually in the replies. JT, remember what did he say? I missed his
He
comment.
retracted the message
It
too.
got retracted, LMAO.
I was gonna say there are some people in the analytics community who are actually defending Olave for stuff outside of his early declare. I saw it, the link or the tweet linked to it, and actually one of the early declare chart that you sent. Some people like him still because he has a really good breakout age. He was just at 19 years old. Because he's a really young senior. His
Breakout age, I'm
dominator rating.
starting to value less and less. Like Brian Edwards had a really good breakout age. He's just the one I could.
Yeah, but then he had a pretty good dominator rating, good target share.
Yeah, see, I don't really give a fuck. I never really gave a fuck about those. I don't.
Yeah, with
saying you're moving towards analytics and then saying you don't value those ones is a pretty big stat.
I think most of the analytics community is starting to move away from breakout age as like a.
Listen, I'm allowed to value whatever the hell I want to value. I like linear trajectory way more than any of this other crap that I see, because I think the problem is that we're all looking, or the analytics people, to me, not all of them, I don't want to generalize too much here, but a lot of people are looking for that, give me a number, give me one thing to value everyone on. And to me, that's kind of what breakout age was, is that, yeah, most of the time, if you have Julio Jones at 17, he's going to be fucking good. Like, I get that part of it. And you want a player to play nasty as a freshman. But I think that grouping those guys along with just people that just happen to play as freshmen isn't the best.
Matt Hill goes, watch Olave get drafted by the Lions. Then no one will ever take him. He'll be undrafted.
No, he'll be the same as he'll be the same as Amon-Ra. Like, it'll be the same situation, like a mid-second, I think, if he goes to, which I think is fair. I don't know what an ideal landing spot really is, to be honest, though. If we're talking like where you would want to see someone like Olave go. Like,
Buffalo?
Are the Eagles a good spot?
Probably not the. I'd want an offense with a vertical passing attack.
I mean, everyone says the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs are always going to be.
Yeah, that's kind of the cliche answer. But no, I just want someone with a vertical passing attack, quarterback with like a good deep ball.
Yeah, but you also got to worry about like, so like if you went to the Bengals, for example, like Olave is like barely touching the field.
Oh well, yeah, not like the Bengals, but that's why I mentioned like a Buffalo.
Listen, I haven't calculated the breakout age. I have it in the sheet, but I don't really calculate it. Like, I'm looking across the board in their sophomore season. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, David Bell, all averaged more yards per game than Olave in his second season.
Yeah. I mean, what you said was just the most telling part, though, is as a senior, Olave got worse. And I get that's because Jackson Smith and Jigba like was playing, but like you're getting outplayed by now a sophomore.
New England's interesting as a fit for Olave.
Yeah, I personally I wouldn't like I would wait.
Eagles actually is a fit.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Coming from Parker.
Dan Quinn's getting a second interview with the Bears. Interesting. But what I was saying is, with what did I miss? Were we talking about that before?
I just love someone with hands. Like, to me, that's exactly what you want as an Eagles fan. Just like, don't drop the ball. You know, they love picking receivers that just suck at catching. Like,
just pain.
Where I'm getting at though is, I want the Patriots to get him. Like if you're talking like I could have Garrett Wilson or Drake London.
He seems
or
like a
Bell,
very
those guys.
He honestly seems like a Patriots pick, though.
He does. He completely seems like a Patriots pick.
I could see him in New England so easily.
I can also, and
who seems like the Patriots wide receivers? Traylon Burks, maybe.
No,
Burks will probably go before the Patriots.
The Patriots never take the top one. They always
but
take
Wilson's
one that's
the
in
Browns
the
could actually use him.
Yeah, the Browns is a good one, but
I mean, wasn't N'Keal Harry the first off the board? Wasn't he the consensus top wide receiver? Yeah.
He was the wide
Wasn't
receiver one.
Hollywood drafted a couple picks before?
Oh,
him?
yes,
He
Hollywood
was,
Hollywood
but the
was
dynasty,
first.
it's kind of like how like Burks and Garrett Wilson has been. Where I think, well, actually, more people are high on Garrett Wilson, but the dynasty community had N'Keal Harry wide receiver one.
That is true.
Around
Howie
that draft.
Roseman, dude, no, he should be in charge of choosing what receiver. Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM.
Just so
But
they know who not to
Yeah,
draft.
just so they know who not to fucking pick.
Like, okay, take the other top guy.
He's like, I think we should take Jalen Rager. Okay, cross him off the board.
And who's the next
Jefferson.
one?
Who are the
Metcalf.
next five receivers. Oh, good. It's not people. It's not just Jefferson. It's like T. Higgins, Ayuk, Pittman,
Claypool.
Yeah, like the next five.
All right. Well, I guess we'll save Garrett Wilson for next week. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrapped it up?
Garrett Wilson is good.
Yes.
And
We'll break
so
him
is
down
Drake
next week.
London. Don't
Yeah.
sleep. Don't sleep, lad.
I don't think people are. I don't think they are.
Dude, I see Drake London every mock draft outside of the top like 6 picks.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, maybe people are.
Which is giving me way too much hope. It's giving me way too much hope because the jury's gonna be out that like he's not N'Keal Harry. Like it's gonna happen.
Well, so I'm trying to think who I would justifiably take over London.
I could
and
easily
it's
see him not
Hall,
going
it's
top 6.
Spiller, Burks.
Burks and
And-
Wilson.
You could
I
take.
don't know if I have
Wilson.
Wilson.
QB1 is probably
You
gonna
could
be
take
there.
Wilson if you
Yeah,
liked him.
I
It's
wouldn't
pretty-
take QB1 though. I'd take London, I think.
Wilson, I think, is going to go ahead of London in most drafts.
All right, but it seems like, yeah, all right. So I'm
Well, you want to
taking
know what's
London
interesting?
before.
I mean, we're not gonna talk about him now, but I want to just do a little bit because I was watching just some like bullshit fuck around watching film instead of like the nerdy ass try hard.
Of course.
Dude, Malik Willis is. I think I underrated him because I was kind of
Yes.
initially
Wow.
on the hate train, but like,
Frank's joining the camp.
I mean, the problem is to me with Malik Willis is I feel like you need to commit like a lot of time developing him, like potentially multiple seasons of like, come on, become
Yeah,
like
well,
standard. But
at
dude,
what
like,
point are you willing to spend that? Like,
yeah, but the thing
The
is,
talent's
one what he
there.
reminds me of, and this comparison is being used for everyone, but I think it's finally justified. Reminds me a little bit of Vic in terms of
oh,
Oh,
It's
'cause-
true. He has the cannon. to
Yeah, he's
match
got a
his legs.
cannon, first off, and he makes these ridiculous throws that no one can even attempt. And second off, like kind of like Vic, sometimes they just say, like, dude, fuck the play call. I'm just doing it. I'm just gonna start doing whatever the fuck I want to do. Kind of because that's how Vic would make his crazy
Yeah.
plays. It's like he's just running around, he spins around a dude. It's backyard football. Like Lamar Jackson is backyard football, but Lamar Jackson plays well in the system. Like, he's a good pocket passer. Like Trey Lance, he's a dude that like he plays the position well. Like he goes through his reads. They make guys miss when the play breaks down, right? They do it when they need to, not because they just decide like, dude, fuck that open dig. I'm just gonna start looking for somewhere to run. Like I'm
yeah.
fuck it. He's nasty.
I was opposite of you though, and well, we'll break them down later. But I was in on Hill, and now I'm starting to fade out. But the NFL draft could move me back.
On who?
Malik Willis.
Oh,
Oh, why did I say someone else?
yeah. I thought you said Hill. I was like, who's that?
Oh, maybe I did. My bad.
The thing is, you just gotta keep the magic and just just a little refinement. Yeah, a little
That.
I can't.
just whatever this is,
I can't wait for him to go to Washington and have Dan Snyder fuck up another running quarterback.
Oh my god, I hope not.
Yeah. Where he goes in terms of like what pick he is will really determine how I feel.
Dude,
about
there
it.
was a throw that he had against Ole Miss. I think it was Ole Miss. It was either Ole Miss or West Virginia. That is just fucking ridiculous. Like he literally spins out of a tackle and then on the run throws it like 60 yards, pinpoint accuracy down the field. Like,
his first half against Ole Miss was horrific.
Yeah, he had like
Kinda
3 interceptions.
He was also running
yeah,
for
but
his
dude,
life
there
for a
was
lot of
like
game.
that one of those interceptions was just a clear drop. Like the guy just got bitched. I hate the scheme. Dude, I'm pretty sure they ran a fake screen pass in that Ole Miss game like 90 times. Maybe it's an RPO, but like I didn't have access to the all 22 for these college games, but it's like, fuck, dude, I hate watching this. Except for the fact that Malik Willis probably hated it too, considering he's just like not running the plays the way that they want him to.
He just does it himself.
Yeah, he's just like, dude, fuck it. I'm Malik Willis. I'm out here. Like,
All right, I think that's a good place to wrap it. We'll eventually go into a full breakdown on Malik Willis, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
We're moving on one step closer to Super Bowl, then franchise tagging in there and free agency, and then the draft, and then next thing you know, we're back into it. So thank you everyone for listening to episode 25, season 2. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.